Hi guys, another week.
Hey. We actually didn't even do a second check-in for week
We
one, so
didn't. We didn't. Yeah, it was just
it's okay though.
yeah. Like after New Year's, was just kind of. I feel like I was just the week just
Yeah,
rushed
trying to get
by,
back.
and
Yeah, and
then
then the first of the year hit for me, and I've just like my editing for Survivor is just consuming my time. And
yeah,
then I tried to get ahead on all my YouTube videos for January, and I literally had enough time to read and wind down for the evening, and that was it.
yeah,
So, but
yeah,
I have actually been able to read, and the editing is not affecting that. And in fact, like I want to relax and stuff. So, and it helps that I'm like really into the book, which I am really into the book, by the way. So,
oh good.
we'll probably talk a lot about that. I actually watched one of your shorts where you talked about her writing style, Carissa Broadbent, and I was like, oh my gosh, I relate to that and agree
Oh
with you so much.
yeah,
How you're like getting spoiled to it, and you really love her writing style. Like
yeah.
she's just so good at not only like descriptions in the writing style, but just these lines that just hit. And I'm like, I
Mm-hmm.
need to go back and annotate because I've had so many ones that I wanted to remember, but I didn't really want to mess this
Oh
copy up. So I just kept reading.
yeah,
But I'm just like, dang, that hits. So I'm really enjoying it. But
yeah,
how are you doing with yours?
yeah. I'm liking it so far. It's giving like Persephone's and Hades, but not like
Hmm.
mixed with I don't just quirkiness. Like both characters have such strong, really strong personalities.
Yeah. I know, I did watch one of your shorts where you mentioned it was like Mish, and I was like, I was wondering if Mish was gonna get, if she was gonna be one of the characters at some point.
Hmm.
And I
It's
know in this
focusing
book
on
and
her.
in the Serpent in the Wings of Night, she gives me Alice from Twilight vibes
Ooh, that is a good
sometimes.
description.
You
That
know,
is a
like
very
the
good
girl best friend who's
description.
so excited. Yeah.
It's a
Yeah, and
very,
so I really like her.
it's, it's a very, it's like an Alice if she remembered her past and
Yeah.
was
Yeah, I can
like
totally,
that's
yeah.
like, yeah, because like
Based on what little
a
I've read,
lot
yeah.
of this is like I have a feeling it's about like working through past things, and I'm curious to see
Hmm.
how um, this partnership is going to go. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
I know in this one she's still very closed off, which is I like that she admits that it's a little hypocritical because she's constantly telling the characters to be open and stuff.
mm-hmm,
Um,
yeah,
so I love Rain. I forgave him. It took I I was
uh
so
huh,
angry. I was holding a grudge.
yeah.
But by the way, spoilers for The Serpent and the Wings of Night, just because the natural plot of this, even though it's like I won't be talking
It's
about
book
too many
two,
spoilers from
so
this book, it's
it's book
just gonna
two, so
spoil
it's
book
naturally
one.
gonna
Yeah.
spoil you if you're not careful.
Yeah. But I do like the comparison to like Rain and his past with Nikolai,
Mm-hmm.
with her relationship with Vincent and how she had to come to terms with who
Yeah.
Vincent was, and like that he wasn't who she thought and he lied to her whole life and stuff. And I
Mm-hmm.
think Vincent made a very good like
Yeah.
not good character as in moral, but like well written character because
Yes.
he's so
Yeah.
complex.
Yeah.
And I like Rain. I like that we get his perspectives, and I like how after the different parts, the interludes, like
Mm-hmm.
in last book, it was like her past. I like that it's
Yeah.
Rain's past, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Me
eating up
too.
the
Yeah.
angst. There's so much angst.
Mm-hmm.
There was like one. There's been only like one chapter that was a little slow for me, and it was not like one
Yeah.
chapter and that was it. So it
Yeah.
was like, oh my gosh, like
It's she has a
I
really good
literally will
flow.
sit down. She does. Like I'll sit down to read for about an hour. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna watch YouTube until bed, for the next half an hour until bed.
Mm-hmm.
But then something in me, I just picked the book back up and I can't
Yeah.
seem to stop reading it.
Yeah. No, I
So,
get that.
and I liked the political stuff and how tense things seem to be. I'm just really worried about how this is gonna end up because it's not like the romance is the focus. So it's not a romantasy, so it doesn't have to have a happy ending with the romance. And I'm really worried that it's gonna be like
Yeah.
you get your freedom and you can go, be free, Aurea, instead of like being with Rain.
Mm-hmm.
And that seemed like that's kind of like the part where it's kind of like he's offering her freedom if she helps him and stuff like that. So I'm just concerned that like that's kind of like instead of the happy ending together, I'm worried that it's going to be more about her getting her freedom. And I'm just like, I don't know
Uh-huh.
how this is going to work.
Yeah.
That's if we get a happy ending at all. Things could still go
Yeah.
crappy.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. That happens.
but I do like there's just so much navigate like political stuff that they have
Mm-hmm.
to do because I love how the nobles don't respect Rain, and I
Mm-hmm.
like the conflict
Yeah.
with Vale. I don't think Vale's the one to betray him after reading his story, but I don't know if there's gonna be a betrayal. So like I remember when you were reading this one, I thought you'd mentioned something about how you don't know who to trust or something.
Yeah.
Maybe that was a different book,
Yeah.
but I'm not that, like, I don't know who to trust, and
Yeah.
I'm just really enjoying it. And her writing style is just like, authors need to like look at her writing style because she is like a master writer. Like, I'm telling you, it's
Mm-hmm.
insane. So
Yeah, for sure.
yeah,
Um,
I'm just really
and
enjoying
that
it.
whole concept of like, I love how you know how most readers would talk about, like, would introduce a character's past through like dialogue and thoughts, and like their thoughts as you go through the story. Like, I like her style of telling the character's past through interludes, like short two,
Yeah.
like when I say 2 page, I mean like one side of one and maybe the other side of the other, or
Mm-hmm.
like one sided page and then one two-sided page, and like it's literally it, like the 2 page and that's it. Interlude, and they're not all the time either, if I remember correctly. Like they're
Mm-hmm.
she divides the book up into books, and then after,
Mm-hmm.
at the start of each new section, she has an interlude.
Yeah, she
I
divides the
like
story into
that.
parts,
I
and
like
it's
that
just like, it's
layout of it.
so, yeah. And I like that in all the interludes, for anybody who hasn't read her books, it never says their name. It's just like
Mm-hmm.
the young man or the
Yeah.
little girl, or and so it kind of implies, okay, I know this is talking about Araya, or I know this
Yeah.
is talking about Rain. But and it's also really flowery writing without being overly dramatic, but
Mm-hmm.
she and like you said, like, I never have any gray area when I'm reading her books when it comes to
Yeah.
description. Like, I don't
Yeah.
like when there's a lack of description, so something is gray in your mind. Whether you
Mm-hmm.
can see the characters but the setting is a little bit gray, or whether the setting is clear but the characters
Yeah.
are gray, like whatever, like you can see everything so clearly,
Mm-hmm.
and you feel with the character. Like, the moment, spoilers by the way, the moment that she went to the thing and they got the wings and it like opened up the artifact and she felt Vincent, and then she
Mm-hmm.
started like going through Vincent's past,
Yeah.
I felt that. Like, it
Oh
was
yeah.
visceral. Like,
Yeah.
ugh. And then one of the parts that I read last night that was getting me was when her and Rain went into town. Well, she went into town, Rain was there, and they went to that pub,
Mm-hmm.
and then he got recognized and they were scared of him. And and she was talking about how bad she felt for him because it reminded, like, he kind of seems like Nikolai, and of
Yeah.
course, and it's just like she felt for him so much, my heart just like
Yeah.
seized
No,
because
I
it was
get
just
that.
so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she's easily becoming my new favorite author. Like, even though I love
Mm-hmm.
like the Akatar series a lot and Fourth Wing, and
Mm-hmm.
we're obsessed and waiting for
Yeah.
Onyx Storm and stuff, it's
Honestly,
just like,
what
I
I
love
really
her.
like too is that um with this one, I don't know if it's the same girl that did the audiobook for the last one, but there's like a girl and a guy, there's like a dual people for the audiobook for this one.
I'm gonna have
I
to get the
haven't run
audio
into the
book.
guy. I haven't got to the guy's POV yet. But
Okay.
the accent goes from like more of like an American accent when it's for the regular chapters to like a super British accent in the interludes, and it's like
Ooh.
phenomenal. I'll have to play the
I'm gonna have
difference
to get the
between you
audiobook.
later. Like I will play
I
I'll
kind of
play
want
like
to
a
try the
chunk.
audiobook for this one to see if it's a
Yeah.
dual.
Yeah.
Do you know? I didn't know if you knew if this one was a dual, because I
Oh,
didn't, because I
hold
thought it
on.
was just gonna be like
Let
a
me
regular
look.
female.
Let me look.
Okay.
Um
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, because I got
Because
that.
I
I got
love
that
that.
one too. Because honestly, I think the audiobooks for this series are really good too. Like I
Yeah.
would argue that the audiobooks for this series are better than the Throne of Glass, which I liked the girl from Throne of Glass. It was a little getting like, I wish it would have been like a male narrator for the guys and a female
That's
narrator
what
for the
I said.
girls. But she does
Yeah.
a really good job with a lot of the female
Yeah.
characters, and it's very female heavy the further you get into the series. But there's a lot of guys too. Don't get me wrong; it's probably about equal guys to girls. So that's why I kind of wish that there
Yeah.
would have been two
I was
narrators
like, oh
for
no.
that series. Well, I mean, there's for every guy there's a
Yeah.
girl, and there's like one,
Yeah.
two, three, four, maybe five girls,
Right.
so there's equal number of guys for girls. So that gives you any indication.
Right.
It's a epic fantasy, so there's a lot of characters. but
Yeah.
yeah. So like I wish there would
Definitely
have
I'm
been
dealing
like
with
a
about
duel.
15 right now.
Like
Yeah.
I would have like liked for there to have been two narrators. I get why
Hmm.
they just went with one because it's the main. Even like Agatar, there's more characters than you would think. Yeah, it's Let me see. Oh, it's the same girl. Okay, it's Amanda Leah Cobb. Um, did they announce book 4? No way.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my
Our
god.
topic of discussion is
Ah!
shifting for this live stream.
Oh my god. It's called The Fallen in the Kiss of Dusk. Oh, oh such a pretty cover too. Oh my god. Okay, I'm sorry. You can see how my brain is like that of a golden retriever. I jump from one thing to
Yeah.
the other. This is bad. Okay. Um
ADHD, anyone? Oh, it's so pretty.
it is so
I love
pretty.
that all the covers look similar, but the color schemes for the duets are
Yes.
different.
Like
You know what
literally
I'm saying? Like,
it's
I
the
could do
perfect
that with mine.
exam.
I'm
It's
like,
like
oh,
I like how it's kind of similar to, like, I don't know, it's even more unique than I would say the original Throne of Glass covers had more of this style cover where it's like they're formatted and they lay out the same, but the object or the person may be different. Like the newer Throne of Glass covers don't do that so much. It's more of like scenes depicted from the movie, from the book, which I get. But yeah,
it's
so
expected August 25th. So is it coming out this year? On
let me-
Goodreads, it says August 25th. I think it's already got. I almost read the blurb. I'm
don't
covering
read the blurb.
blurb.
Okay, I'm gonna have to not read the blurb either. So
I read
let's.
something about Misha's name, so it
Okay.
looks like August of this year. I'll let. Woo! Do not read the blurb.
Okay, all right.
Be careful. You got to do some super sleuthing here.
Okay, all right. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, don't look. Don't read.
Okay.
Don't read. Okay, hardcover. I can pre-order it. August 5th. I literally
That's what
have
I
2
thought.
books pre-ordered right now. I do not need to pre-order a 3rd book. I was going to tell you to tell me not to pre-order it, but I don't want you to do that because I want to pre-order it, so I'm just not going to continue that random thought.
Girl, pre-order it. Do it.
See, then we get into this issue.
I will
Okay.
always support you.
But the thing is, you know what? I'm going to wait because we know how Target loves to put all those stupid limited editions. So you know what? You know what?
I'm gonna wait.
I'm not going to pre-order it.
That's funny.
I'm going to waste my money the day it comes out.
That
Hey,
actually leads me
it
into an
could be-
article I found.
It could be a back to school gift to myself because it'll be in August.
Birthday gift to me, because that's my birthday month.
There you
So
I
All right,
literally
so that
almost
leads
read the
me
blurb.
into-
I'm so used
Yeah.
to
I saw
automatically
Niche,
going
and
to
I
the
was like-
blurbs, and I'm like, okay,
I was
nope,
like, I shouldn't
closing
even
that
know
tab.
that
Okay,
Niche is the main character, but that's fine. So,
but yes,
that actually leads me into the first article that Onyx Storm's new collector's edition continues a frustrating book trend that is unfair to readers. Okay, it continues the publishing trend. It's basically all the backstory. You know how they have to introduce everything.
yeah.
Okay, like Fourth Wing, okay, it's getting a special edition, collector's edition, allowing readers to purchase the book with features like sprayed edges, original artwork, a bookmark. These types of editions can be exciting for readers, but they can have a downside. Rebecca Yarros and Red Tower Books revealed a new collector's edition of Onyx Storm from Target that's left readers feeling conflicted. They're more common and leaving consumers with difficult choices to make. Okay, it's not the most troublesome example of a book receiving multiple editions on release day. It still leans into this trend by having both a deluxe edition and a collector's copy. Okay, so that's the difference that they haven't said yet, is that the Amazon one is a deluxe edition, the Target is a collector's edition.
Of course.
The
Which
terms,
means the collector's
technically,
one is going to be
it's just
cooler.
like
That's all that
semantics.
means. It
Yeah.
means that the pre-order one's not going to be as cool. That's
Yeah,
all
it
that
says
means.
while the two versions don't seem to be vastly different, their edges vary.
They are
and
different.
The collector's edition has a ribbon bookmark, original art, and a full color map. These details could push readers to buy
But
multiple
yet
copies
it's
of the same
not
book.
different. It's not different.
It's not. How could you say it's not different? But it has. I didn't know it had a ribbon
Oh
bookmark. Like
yeah, I
that's a
saw it.
that
It's in the
that
picture.
spoiled me for Six
Yeah,
Scorched Roses.
yeah,
I
like
literally had to get one of these bookmarks because I loved the ribbon idea. Like as a just keeping track. Like that
yeah.
is a big difference.
In my head, the collector's edition should be the one that you get on pre-order.
Yeah, we've
It
talked
should
about
be
this
the
before, but
limited
value
edition,
your
limited amount.
pre-order, people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, value your
Anyway,
pre-order.
I'm not getting on this discussion again because I will rant for literally another hour on this and
I get
pout
it.
out of spite.
Yeah,
It's annoying.
it was worth mentioning.
And I understand she has little control over that, but it's like you have to at least okay some of that. And it's like she talked about how she tries to make everything nothing like in the books, because I saw like one of her comments or one of her replies to it was like how she makes them inside they're both exactly the same, and if there's anything that's different, then she posts it to her website. And I'm like, I get that. I don't want the poster from the website. I want the poster in my book, and I want to feel validated for pre-ordering it and being so sure that it's going to be a good enough book, great enough book that I'm going to want to like a copy to keep. Which, you know, obviously I love the series, so of course I'm going to have a copy. But it's like the fact that the people that loved her enough to go out of their way to try to pre-order it or order it ahead of time are just completely like, it's like the whole concept of pre-ordering is completely devalued because you have an even cooler version with extra stuff that's coming out on release day. And it's like, well, what's the point of even releasing it for pre-order? Yeah. Like, why are you even pre-ordering it, making it available for pre-order, if you have full intentions on putting an even cooler version the day of? Why not encourage your readers to go to the store on release day?
100%. Yeah.
I don't know.
It is frustrating.
Anyway, we're not getting on this subject again because I will rant forever.
Yeah. So our next topic was the Audible thing, which apparently is actually, they've had Audible podcasts for a while.
Yeah.
But
we just didn't really know.
Didn't know about it. If I did, I would have been mad sooner because I'm mad now just as an indie author. It makes things harder. But
yeah.
So on that note, but I was super sleuthing, and it looks like it's more of like a submission based thing, and they're not taking call to submission, so it's not like you can just upload your podcast and do it. So
yeah. Like, and then I know some people like on Reddit. There's like a Reddit like a post from like 3 years ago. So it is like a slightly older post, but it brings up a lot of good points. Like with one person, the original person that made the thread was like, are you worried about that Audible is focusing too much on podcasts and will lose focus on audiobooks? Which, considering I didn't hear about it until now, I'm assuming it's not. Maybe they're putting a bigger push now than they were because podcasts have only gotten bigger since they first started.
Yeah.
But it was like a lot of people are like not really concerned. It's a cheap source of free bonus content for them, but not a real draw for actual subscriptions. Some people are saying that they don't listen to podcasts, and they doubt Audible will lose focus on audiobooks because that's kind of like their thing. And then some people even brought up the point, they're like, I wish Audible would double down on audiobooks and make it the best platform imaginable, like having more Goodreads. Having like more Goodreads Kindle integration, which I didn't think about, which I guess they do kind of, because they have what's called what is that called, where it's like you're reading on your audiobook and then when you switch to your Kindle, it will continue where you left off on your audiobook. There's a feature for that.
Oh, that's cool.
So they do I guess they have kind of worked on that a little bit. So like, you know, this person was kind of it's 3-year post, but still. Like a better search discovery functions, apps for desktops, like
that would be I can see that.
the like having like the non bed web player pop-up thing, So like if you're listening on the computer, like it has a little tiny square window that pops up that you listen out of. Like it's not
Mm-hmm.
just with the screen. Like it's not in the tab. It's like this separate little window, which is
Right.
slightly irritating.
That's weird. Yeah.
Um, some people say I use Audible all the time. It's the first time I've ever been aware of that there were podcasts, so it's kind of like us, like I didn't really realize it.
Yeah. We didn't know about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, says podcasts may be popular in some circles now, but this medium will never cause an audiobook retailer to retool to less audiobook availability. And it also kind of talked about how that Amazon may have to separate the two if they dive too much more into podcasts, and they might have to make
True.
their
I never
own
thought about that.
podcast app. Which
Yeah.
if they wanted to make more money, they would just make it another subscription like they have Amazon Music, Amazon Prime Video. Like there's like they're all separate
Mm-hmm.
subscriptions. Like if you get Amazon Prime, you don't automatically get Amazon Music or Amazon Prime Video. Like they're all separate things.
Yeah.
you know, like
Yeah.
like they're all
And I know,
separate
like,
things.
we
Like
even
Audible
submitted
is
our
different
podcast
than
to
those.
Amazon Music.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Amazon Music's already integrated podcasts a little
Which
bit too.
and
But
now they're having it where Audible is a part of your Amazon Music subscription now. So they are starting to integrate it in, but it's like that's what they were saying is like if they're gonna dive too much more into podcasting, then I would like honestly it would make more sense to put podcasts with Apple Music, but
yeah,
maybe Apple Music's just not as popular. I mean, I could see that being
maybe.
a
I don't
thing,
actually know.
and that Audible's more
I know for
popular
me,
than
it's
audiobooks than
the
music.
people's comments, what you're saying, like for me was at least reassuring because they have a point when Audible is the most popular audibly listened like platform for audiobooks. And so there's no way that the podcasting would overtake it or change it because it's so popular. Um,
Yeah.
like so like that's the go-to thing when people listen to audiobooks usually. Like Spotify's getting better and
Mm-hmm.
I have actually used it more than lately
Yeah.
because I used Spotify to listen to Tao Te Ching instead of Audible because I didn't it was free on or like not free but like I had the extra hours on Spotify.
Yeah.
So like with Spotify I like that when you have the premium plan you just automatically get 15 hours of listening time and you can listen
Yeah.
to whatever book you want. So like if you want to
Mm-hmm.
jump, you're not using one credit for one book
Yeah.
that you may not end up wanting to listen to the whole thing because that's my thing is I've gotten credits for books that I thought I wanted to listen to
Mm-hmm.
like Throne of
Yeah.
Glass and then I didn't like her voice for Dorian and I already hated his character and I never listened to it and that was like a credit kind of wasted that
Yeah.
I can't return as of right now.
Yeah.
So there's definitely like
Yeah. I think it's
different for both.
interesting how Amazon Music does it. That you have like with Amazon Music, you're able to listen. You can, you have access to one. It's essentially the same as Audible, but if you have an Audible subscription, it's separate. But it still connects my library. It's weird because I tried it out like with the free trial for Amazon Music,
Uh-huh.
and
Right.
so like I chose the Fourth Wing dramatized version of the part one of Fourth Wing, the dramatized version, and I'm
Mhm.
like I was curious to see if it would interact or if it would take my credit from my regular Audible subscription, and it doesn't. So it's almost like getting two credits.
Maybe something to think about. I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
yeah, it's kind of interesting, but yeah, again, and
Yeah.
Amazon Music has its own podcast section, so I don't know why, but it's like I guess it's separated then, because some people I saw
Weird like
in that same Reddit post it said some people were like, well, there's some of the podcasts are more like audiobooks that are read by specific people, and I lost that particular post, but
yeah.
I don't know. It's a really interesting concept,
Mhm.
and I can see how for like your indie authors that are struggling to get traction in general, just adding more things to have to fight through. I could see how that would be frustrating for sure.
Yeah. Because we're already forced to be exclusive on Audible, so we can't try out like Spotify or how
Yeah.
other platforms would work, or if you can't afford to hire a narrator and stuff. Like I have the blessing with my narrator of Samurai. I mean, she's quitting fiction books, and so she's literally
Mm-hmm.
doing it for me for free.
Yeah.
Other than what she's already earned from the royalty share, which I mean hasn't been like a lot, but and so we're
Yeah.
doing the process right now where she'll give me the rights basically for free, essentially. It's
Yeah.
not technically free because there still has to be a fee involved, like Amazon or
Mm-hmm.
Audible won't let it be completely free. But
Yeah.
I'll be able to test out these other platforms to see if they're worth it with Samurai because
Okay.
of,
Yeah.
Halloween.
Yeah. Definitely.
I'm having acid in my throat right now. Sorry, guys.
Oh man.
Maybe guzzling water. It's like a really bad time to talk when there's just acid in my throat.
Yeah. Acid
But yeah,
reflux
I don't know.
sucks.
If it literally has been around this long and we haven't heard about it, then it clearly hasn't been a problem because I've only
Yeah.
started my audiobook like 2 years,
But
like was
honestly,
it 2023?
up until
So it's been 2 years
up
now.
until like last year, like 2023, 2024, podcasts
Hmm.
haven't been a huge deal. So it's
Yeah.
like the reason, and like I because the reason why we were even talking about it is because I was on like that my Samsung TV has like those free channels that it's like Samsung's like
Yeah.
each brand has their own version, but
Roku has the same thing.
they're the same channels. It's just they're the same free rerun channels. But I was watching like it's like the 30th anniversary. It was the 30th anniversary of Forrest Gump, and it was on the Grand Ole Opry, and they were singing songs from the movie and stuff like that. And I kept seeing the same Audible ad over and over, and it was about podcasts and stuff like that. And I'm like, I get it. Like
What is that?
that's what triggered it to me. It's like I didn't even realize it had podcasts. Yes, there is a tab right next to the library tab that says podcasts, but like when you're not actively looking for something, your brain just kind of skips over it and doesn't even acknowledge its existence. And so it's like I didn't even realize that it was a thing until
Yeah,
I
me
kept
either.
seeing the ad over and over again, and I'm like,
Well, it sounds
what
like
is
they're
this?
doing a campaign then, like an ad
Yeah,
campaign,
yeah.
probably because of the rise of podcasts. And that brings
Hmm.
my mind up to something when we were super sleuthing about this Audible thing.
Yeah.
I read somebody did a post, I don't remember when it was from, but it was like, or I think it was from like recently, because it was like, is podcasting dead in 2025 and is video
Yeah.
gonna overtake it again, or is, because to me I thought podcasts were coming to such a big thing, I expected it to become even bigger in
Yeah.
2025.
Yeah.
And so, but who knows, I know like most of the podcasts that I do know about that I actually pay somewhat attention to because I don't listen to podcasts very much,
Mm-hmm.
they all have YouTube channels where they release their podcast on YouTube, and that's why kind of
Yeah,
why we
that's
did
what
ours
I've
the way
noticed.
we
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, to me they have both, and I'm
The
like,
two podcasts that I listen to are both like that. That they have
mm-hmm,
a YouTube channel, and then they post them. I mainly listen off of um, Amazon Music because that's what Alexa connects with, and so usually I
makes it
listen to it like
easy.
in the
Yeah.
kitchen and stuff. So I just have her start it, and she usually picks up on it there. Sometimes I'll use Spotify if I'm really kind of in the mood for that, or if I'm in the car. But most of the time, it's just
Mm-hmm.
Amazon Music.
Yeah. Okay, well, um, so one of the articles that I found that I wanted to talk about was seeing that Anathalion and Earthquaking by my editor and good author friend AJ Pruitt is coming out. Like, Anathalion's re-releasing on the 14th of the month.
Mm-hmm.
She did a short video that said that Anathalion is a lot like Chronicles of Narnia, and she quoted Voyager of the Dawn Treader. One of the quotes in there like really inspired her writing, and since I've read Anathalion, I would say, yeah,
Yeah.
like it's literally Chronicles of Narnia is very similar, and it gives that same nostalgic. Because every
Mm-hmm.
time I've never read Narnia, I need to read the Narnia books,
Yeah,
but every
I
time
love
I
Narnia.
watch the movie that was made, I
Mm-hmm.
get that I'm a kid again, huge imagination, like fantasy. I don't know. It's just like I get that feeling, and that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of what I got when I read Anathalion. So I can't wait for the re-release. Like, she's talking about like her the illustrations. I'm so excited because every chapter is gonna have like a chapter header illustration with it.
Yeah.
But I found an article that talked about Greta Gerwig. She's the one who did the Barbie movie. Her Narnia remake can avoid the mistake that the Disney movies couldn't come back from. I haven't read the article, so I don't know what quote mistake they're talking about, but I want to see what they have to say because I was genuinely like, I did love the first Narnia movie from the Disney ones. I haven't really watched, I did watch like Prince Caspian, and then I
Mm-hmm.
thought they did like maybe one more, and I didn't really watch that one.
Voyage of the Dawn Treader.
Okay, that was it. So okay, what mistake? I'm trying to find. However, Disney proved this is not the best way to go since the Pevensies. Okay, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is what comes to general audiences' minds when they consider the Narnia franchise, and that's because it often is the first to be adapted.
Mm-hmm.
But Disney proved that's not the best way to go since the Pevensies' first adventure in Narnia is challenging to follow up. They released The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe in 2005. It was a fair success, 745 million at the global box office. Disney jumped into the sequels, The Chronicles of Narnia and Prince Caspian, and The Voyage of the Dawn Treader we just talked about.
Yeah.
Made less than the global box office, 420 million for Prince
Yeah.
Caspian, and then 416 for The
Okay.
Voyage of the Dawn Treader.
Speaking of which,
Disney.
side note, the reason why I didn't like Voyage, I liked the first two. But the reason why I felt like, for me, the reason why I didn't like Voyage of the Dawn Treader was because the animations on Aslan were very fake and different. It was very different than the first two. You can tell he was animated, whereas in the first one, I don't know, like the first two, it was, I don't know how to describe it, but it was like he looked more realistic. It was just, you could tell the animation was different. I don't know if I think they ended up using, they had to use a different company for animations or whatever, and so like I think that's partly a why, but that's why I didn't like the third one. I like the messages in the third one. I like the story. I like the fact that you have Lucy and Edmund that are growing up and it's like their final adventure in Narnia. So like I really, really love the story of it. But it was just the animations is what threw me off for that one. Sorry. Side
I
note,
know when
continue.
I was watching somebody review the first movie, they were talking about how most of the budget for the first movie probably went into animating Aslan and making him look realistic. So that
Yeah.
seems like that lines up.
Yeah.
But it says Disney couldn't justify another Narnia movie after those last two didn't do so well. But Garreg may be able to avoid a similar problem. It says Disney's Narnia movies made a mistake starting with The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. The sequels just couldn't hold up. Though beloved, the Disney's Narnia movies went wrong in several ways. The studio didn't work fast enough while producing the sequels, so the young cast quickly outgrew their roles. And it would be difficult for the sequels to hold up against The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. This is the novel that general audiences are the most familiar with, and the story itself is the most self-contained. Adapting The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is a sure way to get audiences to a theater, but there isn't much reason for them to return for the sequels. Her adaptation can apparently avoid, according to this article, avoid Disney's mistake by starting with the magician's nephew. She can start with The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, essentially rebooting Disney's story with the hope that audiences will be able to go to the same ride all over again, or the Barbie movie director can take a fresh route and adapt The Magician's Nephew.
Oh my gosh, The Magician's Nephews. Is that book one? Yes, that's such a good book.
It's the Lewis's Narnia prequel. It has yet to be adapted into a full feature movie, which means she would have the benefit of like a fresh start. It's never been adapted before. And then she starts with that. It would be perfect. It would be the perfect launching point for further movie sequels, kind of leading into The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Yeah. I would definitely agree.
So it tells the origin story of the land of Narnia and many of its characters. It's a story that general audiences tend to not know, but it provides context for the roles which people are more familiar. If she starts with it, it could provide renewed interest in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, but it's 5 sequels because you're learning about like the world and stuff.
Yeah.
So, and then they list out other reasons to start with it.
One thing I would have to say too that's really kind of, I feel like Disney really missed out on is that the magician, and a lot of people that have just watched the books don't realize this, but the old guy in the mansion, what's his name? I forget his name. The old guy that they go to stay, the professor, they go to stay at his mansion. Like, the first book is his experience with Narnia.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's literally, like, Bible terms, it's literally Genesis. It's the creation.
Yeah, like I said, it was
and it's like
the story of Narnia, the creation of Narnia.
Literally, the first and the last book are, like, there's 2 out of the 7 that I haven't read. I haven't read The Silver Chair, and I haven't read The Horse and His Boy. Those are the only 2 that I haven't read, but I've read all the others. And the first and the last one are my absolute favorites. I love them. And I'm like, when they stopped after Voyage of the Dawn Treader, I was very sad and disappointed because
Yeah.
but like the movies were gradually getting worse and worse, so like I wasn't too disappointed because I just wasn't happy with them like I was the first one.
Yeah.
But like she definitely has a really good opportunity to start fresh and make it her own, especially if she starts with the magician's nephew. Like that could be a huge,
Hmm.
huge like selling point. But she has to
Yeah.
stick true to the books, and she can't pull the biblical parallels out of it. If you pull the biblical parallels out of it and you try to de-Bible it, it will ruin it
Hmm.
because
Or
it's
feminize it or whatever
and it was
politics she
like
wants to
and
throw in
that's where
there.
it's
Yeah.
like and that's where it's with with Narnia and Lord of the Rings, they're both Bible and like they're both Christian based, but they're different. So you have
Mhm.
Lord of the Rings that's more like Bible themes that are woven into a story, whereas with Narnia, it's literally there are times where it seems almost like a parallel with the Bible at times, and
Yeah.
it's like they're
They're
very
both
differently
technically
written.
considered allegorical fantasy, I think is what
Okay,
the
gotcha,
term is, I
gotcha.
think.
I wasn't sure, but I didn't know the terms. I didn't know there was a term,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Allegorical, because I've often wondered if, like, I think the Valiant series would be considered allegorical fantasy, but like Lord of the Rings, you have a lot of non-Christian fans that are
Mm-hmm.
fans of Lord of the Rings that are
Yeah,
non-Christian, so
yeah.
they'll argue with you that it's not there, but it is.
Oh
So
yeah.
it's definitely more subtle
Well,
versus the direct
J.R.
parallels
Tolkien was
of Narnia.
he
But
was a
both have been inspirations,
he
so
was a theologian. It was said that him and C.S. Lewis would meet and talk
yeah,
about their books. And so it's
yeah.
like they're both
So he's
big
more
theologians. Like as much as you want to deny it, it's there. Just
yeah. Well, and
it's
you can see that a lot of being a theologian like that, you can see that that's why his are so deeply rooted, like really deep
yeah.
themes, is because
Oh
that's
yeah.
his area of expertise, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But that kind of launches into another article I found that said 10 fantasy books being adapted into TV shows and movies that
Hmm.
could kind of revolutionize the genre. I didn't even know there were 10 coming out, but here we go. Because we've kind of have a hate love relationship with adaptations, and you're
Mm-hmm.
like, I kind of agree that like they should stop being made if you're going to continue to dishonor them and not make
Mm-hmm.
good ones.
Yeah.
But you're going to hate this first one, the Folk of Air trilogy by Holly Black, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
Um, okay. By the way, one of the booktubers that I love to watch, that's like the main one, she actually, that's one of her favorite fantasy series is that
I could see
series,
that.
and she
It's good.
loves the duology that follows that, which is the
Ooh,
book
I
that I
haven't
have,
read the. Yeah, I
the
haven't read
Prisoner's
that yet.
Stone,
Yeah.
that I bought the book thinking it was just a book and not knowing
Oh.
it was the second in a duology that follows a series that's a trilogy. So
Yeah.
that was interesting.
You literally
But
bought the last
also,
one in the whole thing. That's
yeah,
funny.
but she also hates, she read Court of Silver Flames and hates it, and she hates the Crescent City series. So I thought that was really interesting, even though she loves The Cruel Prince.
Wait,
So she doesn't read
which
fantasy.
she read Crescent City and she read which other one?
Court of Silver Flames,
Oh,
and hated
well,
it,
that makes sense
apparently. But
because A Cruel Prince is a very simple. It's a very simple story. Neither of those other
it's for
series
baby
that she read
fantasy.
are
It's not
simple.
really like hardcore fantasy. It's like, it's, yeah, I mean, it's still probably really good. Don't get me wrong, like it's not bad. I'm just saying
Well,
it's like
see,
not
it's
hardcore like
basic.
fantasy.
It's basic fantasy. Whereas A
Yeah.
Court of Silver Flame is romantasy, and then a court Crescent City is urban fantasy. I mean, she
Yeah,
just likes
two different,
basic
or three
fantasy.
different genres.
I would explain that.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, she's more of a rom-com romance reader
oh
anyway,
yeah,
so
yeah, that would make
it's kind of the
sense.
thing. But anyways, um, okay, I don't know where it's just kind of describing, which I don't want to read too much about the series or whatever.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Universal Pictures, I'm just trying to find the name of the show and like who bought it or whatever. Universal Pictures bought the on-screen adaptation rights to The Cruel Prince in 2017, but there's been little update and no new news whether the studio is started pre-production for a movie or a TV show
Yeah.
adaptation. Fans continue to hype up the idea and express their desire to bring this unique fantasy world to screen, offering hope that the popularity of the novels will eventually lead to it.
Yeah, I could see it would be a good TV show. Well,
Yeah.
no, not a TV show.
You think film? You think
Film,
movies
movies,
more?
like a trilogy. Yeah,
Mhm. I'm
Now,
always more, I think books are better adapted into TV
but
shows because you have more room to breathe, but I get
but when
with the
I okay, I say this and because it's not a it's a quick pay. It's not it I don't
yeah,
know. When I look at like Throne of Glass and I look at which obviously it would be good for a TV show because there's so many books, right? But like if I look
yeah,
at like Throne of Glass versus something like the Cruel Prince trilogy, like it just there's significantly less. It seems like there's significantly less like the side characters in Throne of Glass sometimes become main characters at times, whereas you never really see
mhm,
that happen in the Cruel Prince series. It's usually the main girl is the main character through the entire thing. Like you don't have moments where it veers off and focuses on other characters. And that's where I'm like any series where it has side characters that take the become front and center for a time, that's when I'm like, okay, that needs to be a TV show. But if it's like one person
mhm.
focusing through the entire thing, if they can stick true to the books, then
Yeah,
I would think it would
provided
be
they
good.
can do that.
I just don't know if there's enough content to make it into a TV show. Now, granted, they're canceling TV shows after like season 3, so in that case, yeah, it might do okay for a TV show because there's significantly less episodes in TV shows nowadays, and there's significantly less seasons. Like you don't see a TV show like Friends or Big Bang Theory, currently in the running because they get canceled after season like 2 or 3. Whereas things
Yeah.
like Big Bang Theory, Smallville, Friends, How I Met Your Mother, a lot of those older 90s, 2000s TV shows, like sitcom TV shows, like they had so many
Mhm.
seasons. Whereas now we don't see that. So it's like it kind of changes the game
That
a
is
little bit
true.
when it comes to TV shows. So, I mean,
Mhm.
that's where like my brain's kind of
Well, there's
thinking of
not
like,
enough
well,
people. They're not putting out enough good TV shows to make people want to stick around,
that's
and then there's
true.
not enough
That's true.
viewership, and then they cancel it. Like The Acolyte only had one season, and they're not renewing it for a season two,
Yeah.
because there wasn't enough people watching it. So the next one said the Poppy War trilogy offers a Chinese-inspired fantasy,
Mm-hmm.
and Starlight Media acquired the rights to it, and they want to adapt it. It was back in 2020. But the time it takes between pre-production and filming gives fans hope that it'll continue to be a thing. The
Mm-hmm.
next one is lore. It pulls Greek gods into the modern era, and the series is written by Alexandra Bracken. And I know that you're like a Greek fan, so like
Mm-hmm.
this kind of sounds like something you would like. Um, okay, it. Okay, the first book in Bracken's The Darkest Mind series was adapted in 2018 by 20th Century Fox. But the movie did not perform well, and fans of the source material were disappointed by the results. Universal Pictures quickly won the rights to adapt lore and has reportedly started developing a screenplay. They've described this planned adaptation as a blend of The Hunger Games and Percy Jackson, giving fans that this fresh, intriguing story based on Greek gods will bring something new to the genre. That sounds pretty good
Yeah.
if they can do it right. Apparently, so I think The Darkest Minds is her other series, and it was adapted, and the first movie of that series flopped, and that's why Universal Pictures picked up Lore, which is
Mm,
her other series, this Greek
gotcha.
gods one.
Gotcha.
So the Legendborn cycle, by Tracy Dion. Um, let's see. It can successfully bring another Arthurian story to the screen for viewers who love the subgenre but need something that stands out. In 2022, Black Bear Television acquired the rights to it, and they're currently in pre-production adapting it to a TV series. So it's like an Arthurian, like King Arthur and stuff. But it looks like it's like cyberpunk, or I don't know, maybe it not.
Yeah.
It looks fantasy. I can't quite tell from the art.
Yeah.
The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue is a sobering take on immortality, by V.E. Schwab. I think I've heard of her.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, in 2020, Studio E1 obtained the rights to adapt the novel. The writer's strike in Hollywood, the development was stalled, but fans really are hoping that they'll see a rendition of it in the near future.
Yeah.
Alexa Stern series, Leigh Bordeaux, uh, Berdag, something like that. It blends secret society and magic school themes. So it is to be an Amazon Prime show, but unlike Shadow and Bone,
Yeah.
Verdago is involved with the adaptation and is already offering a promising update about the pilot episode being an impressive beginning to the project.
Hmm.
So From Blood and Ash series is bringing back vampires, and that is on my list to read at some point this year. From Blood and Ash by Jennifer Armentroso. It's definitely one I want to get to before an adaptation comes out, if one does come.
Yeah.
Um, they're a fresh take on classic monsters. We'll see, because if this deals with vampires, then it's definitely going to be comparable to this series. So, which
Yeah.
I'm spoiled to. So we will see if From Blood and Ash keeps up with it.
Yeah.
This, they say, out of thousands of fantasy books, this one deserves Game of Thrones treatment, which should be an epic, well-developed TV series that captures all the grandeur and nuances of the storyline. There was nothing about
There's.
which.
Did you realize there's 6 books in there was 5, will be 6 books in the Blood of Ash series.
I just now did. They added a note at the bottom that
Oh.
listed all the books. I was like, well, that's a long series.
Yeah, I know. The next
Yeah.
one is expected, book 6 is expected per Goodreads, is expected publication is 2025. So
At least I'm gonna be plenty to read if I love that series. But I've also got Throne of Glass, so maybe I don't need more to read.
oh,
So the Red Queen series.
it has a
we've been
spin-off
talking about
series.
that one. That's interesting. So the Red Queen series, which we've talked about before, I want to reread Red Queen. I loved it. Okay, it's like a high fantasy version of X-Men. I mean, yeah, kind of. Okay. Universal acquired the rights to adapt it years ago, but recent updates, such as Elizabeth Banks being set to produce, direct, and act in the TV series, suggest the rendition is actively in development.
Huh.
Obviously, the Empyrean series is the dragon-centric series that we need, by Rebecca Yarros. I wonder. We didn't know that at all. It was picked up by Amazon MGM Studios and is in early development. When this premieres, it could rival House of the Dragon, but with an appeal to younger audiences, since House of the Dragon's more adult.
Yeah.
So, the Broken Earth series, by N.K. Jemisin, is dystopian fantasy at its peak, according to the article. Where am I at? Okay. It doesn't actually say the studios on that one. There was a bidding war to win the adaptation rights to this trilogy, with TriStar Pictures obtaining the rights. So they had a bidding war on this series to see who would get the rights to it. Honestly, it seems like, I don't know, it seems like that's the only thing that studios are trying to do is, again, we're in an era of remakes, adapting books into movies or sequels to big time trilogies or movie franchises that already exist. And with all of these series is getting adapted or sold to studios and stuff like that, it's it seems like nobody's trying to come up with an original film idea anymore.
Yeah.
In my opinion, which is it just seems like it lacks creativity.
Yeah. Okay, one thing that I forgot to mention that I've been seeing surfacing quite a bit, and I don't know if you've seen it or not either. Fable is in a little bit of controversy at the moment. I don't know if you've seen this.
Like our app that we use, Fable?
The one that we just discovered that we like. So the reader summaries that you and I have been gushing over that are constantly changing and we'll take screenshots of and stuff? Well, apparently that's run by AI, which I kind of figured that.
I kind of figured that.
But they're in the middle of a little bit of a controversy because the AI reader summary was giving out some more offensive descriptions. And there's some of them that I'm like, I was kind of surprised. Now, it is with the African American community and the LGBT community, which I know neither one of us are. Some of them are more obvious reasons why we're not big into that community. I need to learn more about a lot of that kind of stuff. There's a couple books that I've read that make me really interested into diving into a lot of that more genre of reading. But I'm going to read you one of the descriptions. It says, your journey dives deep into the heart of Black narratives and transformative tales, leaving mainstream stories gasping for air. Don't forget to surface for the occasional white author, okay?
Wow.
I know.
I don't really know what to
say. And I'm like, I just and
Well, to
it's
me,
it's
on the
it's
one
playing
hand,
off of the whole could earn an eye roll, like the last line is always a little kind of quirky
it's
and
always kind of a
sarcastic,
dig.
and so it's
It's a
trying to
sarcastic dig.
play off of that. I think it's just
It's meant in an innocent way.
race is always a really tricky subject, and I don't, and that's the frustrating bit about AI, and you've kind of talked about that, like you and I kind of talked about that off on our own a little bit anyway. Is AI don't understands where that line is between joking and like serious. It doesn't have that human conversation
Yeah,
light
that's the
bulb
whole
red
point.
flag.
Yeah.
My grandpa called it a red flag. It's like when something happens that it's like, oh, that's not normal, or oh, that's kind of weird that he's touching her like that or talking to her like that or is kind of cornering her like that.
Hmm.
That's weird. It's weird. We have those
Well,
like
here's another
triggers and
thought
those red
too.
flags, and it's like it just, I don't know. I can
Well,
see what
here's
it was
another
trying
thought
to do.
too. If if say me, because I'm white, obviously, it's pretty obvious. If it
Yeah,
had done that to me and it said like, "Well, you're reading a lot of white
I wouldn't
authors,
like
just don't
it.
forget to give some black authors some love." I actually think that that would be received more positively in the general
Yeah,
community. Like, oh, yeah, you're
yeah,
a white person. You need to educate yourself.
yeah.
So to me, it's like just because it's recommending, like,
I
and you said the last
see
line
the
is always
way.
meant to be sarcastic,
Yeah,
but just because it's like suggesting you should
see the
read,
way I would look at it
I don't
is
know.
I would have been like, well, I'll read what I want to read. Which again, in my
Yeah.
head, I know that it's just like a little. It's an AI. It's an AI. It's not a real
Yeah.
person.
Like
But
my
I
mind
think
got
it's
obsessed
just
with military
yeah.
romances, and I'm like, I'm not actually reading
Mm-hmm.
military romances anymore. That was 5 books I read in a series. I
Yeah.
get it, but I'm back into fantasy again. But it
Yeah.
was like it's not seriously annoyed. It's not really meant to be taken seriously. And I feel like sometimes people are too sensitive and too offended about things
Well,
that's like,
I can understand.
you know,
I think what makes it worse is the fact that it's AI is involved too, and you know how big the reader community is with AI. Which again,
yeah,
I just wish that we could all just see people as people, and that race wouldn't have to be brought into the situation. And when
yeah, it wouldn't have to
AI
be,
and it's
but
where it's like and it's like and then AI doesn't understand that. It's a computer. And so it
yeah,
sees one person, it sees somebody reading lots of black or African American based literature, and it's like, oh, well, let's branch out, like, and a lot of them kind of like, if I go back and to look at some of my old ones that I took screenshots of, it talks about like, oh, I'm worried that you're gonna do this now because you're so focused on reading this one series, like you're so
yeah,
focused
like
on
it's
reading
I
it.
thought it was hilarious. Like it's meant
Like
to be
I
funny, like a funny dig at the
Yeah,
kind of books that you read.
yeah,
So it's not really meant to be taken seriously. And like
yeah,
I don't know, sometimes I do feel like if something like that is like upending your life or like really upsetting you, then maybe like taking a break from social media or something is
yeah.
the best thing, because we've also talked about how scrolling on social media or
Oh my
TikTok
gosh, yeah.
is not good for mental health. So if you're reading something and it's upsetting you, and this is for any platform, not
Yes,
just this
yes,
kind of
no,
stuff
yeah, yeah,
or this kind of subject, take a break and touch grass. And that's not like a negative thing, but like give yourself a break from the
yeah,
toxic things that are making you have such a mental break
yeah,
over words on a screen. Like I've caught myself doing this with other things too. Like if it's upsetting you so bad, then you need to take a step back from it and not let something that's not really that big of a deal, like in the grand scheme of things,
yeah,
like
yeah,
offend you. Because like when we're online, like our lives are kind of getting like attached or wrapped up in that a lot, and so it feels like it's worse than it
yeah,
really is
yeah.
sometimes.
I
Like I'll
think
read
it
a
was
YouTube,
more.
like I had one comment on one of my YouTube videos that was like, I do my writer reacts videos,
Mm-hmm.
and the comment was like, it should be more like Jabba the Hutt reacts, and
Yeah,
it ruined my whole night. And I'm like, why am I letting this bother
yeah,
me?
yeah.
And it's okay, just don't worry about it, take a step back and don't let it bother you. Like, and it's hard, it's easier said than
I
done,
and that's where it's
but
like, if they, I just, and that's where I think a lot of the main issue is that it brought race into the factor when it didn't need to bring it into that factor. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Like it's like it wasn't really a net, like it didn't need to bring that into account. Like, and
Well,
I
what other genre, like, like if they're reading a lot of African American kind of style, like
yeah,
genre, then it's curious to see what else. could
But
have been
see,
mentioned because that
but
is the genre. You know what I'm saying?
to be fair, none of mine have mentioned me reading any other genre either. So it was like, I don't know. It's just really weird.
Mine kind of
And
did,
and
but
it's
I kind of went back and forth between different genres.
oh,
Like mine was
see,
like military, suspense, and
I
fantasy.
like I read a lot of like I read so much fantasy, but not once did it tell me to branch out and read something other than fantasy though. So like I don't know, it's weird. It's a really weird
Yeah,
situation. And to be fair, they have
yeah. What's the
they
response then?
let me see if I go AI reader summary reese.
Yeah.
Because I did end up seeing their response before I did see the response um okay okay where is the and there was another um well, I don't want to actually play the video. Okay.
Yeah.
So there was a picture like on the actual app. Maybe this article from of course New York Times is going to make me pay for it. Never mind.
Oh yeah, I hate those kind of articles.
Yeah. Let me do image because surely somebody took a screenshot because they posted in Fable. I just can't remember. Um,
I'll see if I can find. Found a USA Today article about it. Oops. Okay, I clicked on an ad and I didn't mean to click on the ad. I was trying to close it out.
Okay, essentially, what changes Fable is making, they're adding a disclosure to make sure it's clear that the reader summaries are created via generative AI. They're adding an opt-out feature for the AI-generated reader summary. They're updating the AI model to remove the playfulness feature, which I think is kind of what triggered that whole thing, because it doesn't understand that some topics aren't the best topics to be playful with, if you get what I'm saying. And
No,
so
I get what you're saying. I just think it's dumb that people are so sensitive that they have to add all this, but at least they're doing
adding
something about it.
so they add a thumbs up or a thumbs down button for the AIs for the reader summaries so they can train the model to better what works and what doesn't, so what you like and what you don't like, which could be a good thing, like more personalized. It adds more safeguards in general, but didn't provide specific details. Yeah.
Right.
This particular person is talking about how they're going to switch and not use Fable, which I don't know. I appreciated the fact that they responded and made the point of like, because they took it out as of right now and they're making changes to it. So like they're actively trying to make changes to make it a more welcoming for everybody, which I get, you know. So I do appreciate that. I'm not gonna make any rash decisions about whether I'm gonna continue using it or not. I'm just gonna continue using it for now just to see what happens and then go from there. So, but
I mean, I love it so much more than Goodreads, so I'm gonna keep using the app, and I actually like the reader summary thing, so I hope it doesn't get taken down temporarily.
The way it sounds, I can't tell if it's fully taken down because since the new year started, we don't have any readings history. Like I don't have any books under my belt for like have recently read, so I don't know if it's actually taken down or not.
I don't know if it would continue from like what you last read, which would be last month, or if it resets in the new year, because I haven't done it over the new year yet. Like this is my first year using it.
Me too.
So I know another one claimed that it said, your bookshelf is a vibrant kaleidoscope of voices and experiences, making me wonder if you're ever in the mood for a straight cis white man's perspective.
I did. That was the other one. So it wasn't just black either. Yeah, I forgot to mention that one. But yeah, it mentioned a couple different situations. Like literally the two most controversial things it could mention is what it mentions, and I'm like,
One person said, you wouldn't expect that sort of line on somebody's readership. Like, they wouldn't say, "Are you ever in the mood for a gay trans black woman's perspective?" Is what the guy's argument was, which I do see that. Like,
Yeah.
I haven't, like, they don't do that for
Yeah.
white
And
straight
that's
people
why,
or
and
whatever
that's
you
what
want to
just
call
kind
it.
of
So
surprised me is because, like, in my reader summaries, it was always playful, but it was never like, you should try reading this next time because you've read so much of this. Like, you should try reading this
mine had
instead.
you.
Like,
I wish I could remember mine was.
but like,
Um,
mine's always been like,
Mine did, but
let me see if
yeah.
I was gonna pull up some of mine because mine have always been like, oh, I'm afraid you're gonna start doing this now, or I'm afraid you're gonna start writing over this, or like fantasy
Yeah.
sovereign with your covertly lovely love for epic fantasy battles and royal dilemmas. I'm worried you'll start demanding regalia at our next book club meeting. Like, it's always been more of
Yeah.
like, I'm afraid you're gonna do this the next time we meet, or the next time we do this, or whatever.
Yeah.
um, I'm
I
worried you'll
posted
start
a few of
a
mine. I'm
coup
gonna see if
of
I
to
can find.
overthrow. So it's like I'm worried you'll start a coup to overthrow my recommended book lists. Yeah, so it's like mine have never been like, you should read this instead.
Oh, I thought I posted some of mine, but yeah. So the last thing I actually did want to mention, just because in another article, a different
Yeah.
article as a subject change, the works that are actually entering the public domain now that 2025 has
Ooh,
officially
yes.
begun.
Okay.
So I actually pay attention to this a lot because for authors, like, we can't use anything not in the public domain, like the Bible. Other than the King James version is not in the public domain, so you
Hmm.
have to get permission if you're including Bible verses in your book.
Oh. Huh.
And so you're stuck using the King James version, which if you're writing a modern day story, like if the people read the King James version, like your characters do, that's fine. But like it translates a little weird. Like
Yeah.
in Immortal, I quoted part of the Bible for one of the portions of it, and it was like the King James version was made in medieval times, and my Hebrew character wouldn't be saying it that way. So my mom and I had to study the Hebrew and write our own rendition of that verse because I, couldn't get permission from it. So I pay attention to the public domain stuff. So here are some of the most notable works that are newly free to use in the public domain. So for anybody who doesn't know, if it's in the public domain, it doesn't have a copyright, so you can
Yeah.
use it. That's why a lot of the old fairy tales can still be retold as long as you're not adapting like the Disney version. You
Mm-hmm.
can still do a Beauty and the Beast retelling or whatever because it's all in the public domain. So A Farewell to Arms by Ernest Hemingway, which I know Ernest Hemingway, but I don't know that particular one. The Sound and the Fury by William Faulkner. I've heard of him as well.
Mm-hmm.
Seven Dials Mystery by Agatha Christie. I've heard that. The first English version of All Quiet on the Western Front by Eric Maria Remarque, translated by Arthur Wesley Ween. I think I've heard of that one too. Rope by Patrick Hamilton, The Carnival Kid, Mickey Mouse's first talking appearance and the debut of his signature white gloves, along with 11 other Mickey shorts, are actually in the public domain now.
Hmm.
Because Mickey actually got in the public domain, I think it was 2023 or 2024,
Yeah.
is when
I
Mickey,
did. I think I
like,
did read it.
it was,
Like, saw a news article, a video from the news about that. Um.
yeah. So The Coconuts, the Marx Brothers' first feature film directed by Robert Flore and Joseph Santley. I think I've heard of that too. So
Mm-hmm.
this one really got me. The Skeleton Dance, Disney's first silly symphony short directed by Walt Disney and animated by UB Iwerks.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the Skeleton Dance. I've seen that video. That's
Oh.
completely public domain now.
Huh.
Blackmail by Alfred Hitchcock, his first sound film. Hallelujah, directed by King Vidor, considered one of the first major studio films to feature an all-black cast. The Character of Popeye by E.C. Segar, as he appeared in the Thimble Theater comic strip, Gobs of Work. The Character of Tintin by Hergé, I'm butchering the names, by the way, as he appeared in the La Petite Vintime magazine comic strip in Les Aventures de Tintin. Singing in the Rain, the music by Nasio Herb Brown, lyrics by Arthur Freed. So Singing in the Rain is public domain now,
Oh, cool.
which means you can adapt it like as a song or whatever. And then American in Paris, composed by George Gershwin, and then Tiptoe Through the Tulips, music by Joseph Burke, lyrics also by Alfred Dubin. So I just found that like some of those were just like fascinating.
Speaking of the public
That
domain, something that I found in high school, like my senior year, in my dual credit world U.S. history class, we had to read a book called "The Narrative of a Revolutionary Soldier." I forget. I can't forget the full name of it, but if you go back in my Goodreads enough, you'll find it. But I was like really struggling to get through it because it was like an older book. And there's a website that I ended up finding called LibriVox, Librivox. It's essentially books that are in the public domain that have been recorded for you to read. So like audiobooks that are in public domain. So it's like if you look
I
up
think I've heard of that,
if you look up
actually.
Peter Pan, like there's several different versions. Like people will volunteer to read, and you can like so for example I could pull up and start listening to the Peter Pan audiobook right now without putting any codes in, without putting any making any accounts, without any of that. Like so if it's like if the book's in public domain, um it's probably on here at some point.
Yeah. And you can also, like, if you're an audiobook narrator, you can narrate classics like that
It's
are in the public domain. And if you want to talk about like the get rich schemes, I've heard of a lot of like business people using audiobooks on free sites like that for public domain works and then publishing them and then selling those audiobooks and making tons of money on them. That was like a let's get, those get rich fast
yeah,
kind of ad type
yeah.
stuff. That's one of the strategies that they use is public domain works, audiobook sites like the one that you just said. I don't know if they use that exact one, but ones like it that you can get the audiobooks for the classic free domain works and then selling them to make money. So
yeah.
but yeah, that's definitely a fun thing. Like that'd be an interesting thing to try sometime, like just as like a reading challenge, like reading a classic book and listening to audiobooks on sites like that and stuff sometime, giving some classics a little bit of love.
Yeah.
So but yeah, so how are you guys doing with your TBR list for January so far? Let us know in the comments below what
Yes.
you're reading and if you're enjoying it and what projects you guys got going on and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, I am just, I don't know, I'm really enjoying this and I kind of like, I am getting so spoiled to Carissa Broadbent's writing style. Like it's just
Me too.
so good.
Me too.
And like my next, like I'm excited to read A.H.A. Pruitt's books, but like my next book, I'm really stuck in this universe, so I may continue with book 3, but then if it ends in a cliffhanger, I won't have the next book till August, so it's like it's gonna be hard to move away from for like big time like this
You
kind
might
of
try
genre of
that.
fantasy, like romantic
You might
stuff.
try
It's gonna
that
be hard to move to something else.
the Ash Blood and Ash book. You said
Have
you
Blood and
said it
Ash.
was vampires, didn't you?
Yeah,
So you might try that
yeah.
one. That might be a
Yeah,
good.
see if that one's any good. I also need to get back into Throne of Glass and try to read at least like one of those books a month until I get to the good stuff in it, but that's a February problem. Oh no, February is Onyx Storm and Gates to Kagoshima, so that's going to be a March problem, not a February problem. Although we may breeze through Onyx Storm and stuff,
Oh
so
yeah.
we'll see what happens with that. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I think that's pretty much a wrap for today.
Yeah. I
I
think
don't
we're
have
good.
anything else to talk
No,
about.
I don't either. All right. Don't forget to like and subscribe and join the Discord in
Yeah.
the description. It's also saved as a link on the main page, YouTube page. So
Oh, okay.
you can just click the
That'll help.
link. I need to test it to make sure it's still a good link, but join it. Chat with
Yep.
us. All right.
We'd love to have you.
Bye.
Bye.